Hello, 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 and welcome. Today I am here with Anita, and we are talking about clarity, and we are talking about well-being. Are we live?
I think so.
Oh, we are. All this stuff just popped up on my screen. Oh my gosh. Okay, today we're here with Anita and we're talking about finding clarity, well-being, and joy. This is going to be so much fun. For those of you that do not know me, I am Sabrina Victoria. I am the host here at Her Talk Show. And if you are not already subscribed, you need to hit that subscribe button because these podcasts are guaranteed to have you thinking differently about life and business. Let's jump right in.
Get ready because today's guest is about to change the way you view your world. This is Her Talk Show, hosted by Sabrina Victoria.
It's because we were a couple minutes late. It doesn't like it when you're late. It like zings you. I was like, all this stuff opened up on my screen. I was like, oh my God, I'm in trouble. For those of you that are here live, thank you so much for being here, for hanging out with us. For those of you watching on the replay, make sure you hashtag replay wherever you're at. We'll show you some love. Listen, we've had over 600 women grace this stage. We are adding another one to the list today. Anita, she is 55. She is a digital nomad, spiritual entrepreneur, and award-winning leader. At the height of the pandemic, after conquering her anxiety, she closed the national nonprofit she founded and ran for 18 years. She became an empty nester, got rid of the nest, nearly everything in it, and launched Joyful Inspired Living, an organization dedicated to teaching people how to become untethered to old beliefs and ways of being in order to create a life aligned with their highest self and true potential. Since recreating herself and her life, she has been coaching clients, running retreats, hosting a weekly podcast. Yes, girl, I love that. And writing a book, all while living an extraordinary life, seeing and experiencing the world with her husband and best friend for 36 years. And she has a new book. The book is Whispers of the Soul, your guide to clarity of purpose, well-being, and joy. And it is going to be released this month. Congrats.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here, Sabrina. It's such a pleasure to be on your show.
How long have you been working on this book?
Oh my gosh. About 3 years. Yeah, just under 3 years. And 2 years of really like diving in. And now just the last little stretch, if you will, as we get ready for the launch at the end of the month. So it's like, oh.
Is this book a long time coming, or is this something that just came to you in the dark of the night and then you started writing one day?
The dark of the day in a way. Yeah, it's a big part of my story, the transformation. You in the introduction you shared about overcoming anxiety, and that a lot of people suffered from just the craziness that was going on with the pandemic, and I was one of them, and it really impacted me on so many levels. And so the story is really Whispers of the Soul is about that journey, coming out of the dark and into the light by learning how to tune in and listen to your highest self. And it's it's a lot of personal anecdotes and stories, and I have a companion workbook for those who are really seeking transformation in their life, and I walk them through how to come out the other end.
Beautiful. When you say higher self,
Mm-hmm.
what does that mean?
Well, it means different things to different people. For me, I feel like I'm connecting with my soul, and my soul is connected with God. It's all one of the same. Some people are not comfortable with that language, so I often talk about your inner compass, or universe. It's tapping into something that's greater than than the I, and it's broader. It's a universal intelligence, and when we quiet the noise that is constantly going on in here, we can really tune into something that is much deeper, that really knows who we are and what we want and why it's important. And we're not as easily influenced by the culture scape. We're not as easily influenced by other people and what people are telling us we should be doing or how we should be in this world. And so it's all about, connecting into something that's true to who you really are, tapping into that authentic self. That was kind of a long-winded answer to what is your higher self, but it's many different things for different people. And it's about finding a language that works for you.
Yeah. Who is this for anybody, the higher self? Can anyone tap into this? Do you have to be a certain age, or do you have to have gone through a certain amount of chaos?
Not at all. It's for anybody. We all have access to this. This is what I'm trying to teach people, that we all have access to this part of ourselves that is more knowing, that has the answers that we're seeking, that understands who we really are and what our true potential is. And our potential is so much greater than what we allow ourselves to often believe. We have so many limiting beliefs. So when we learn to tap into that inner wisdom, that higher self, and children are actually really great at this. In fact, we all, at some point in our life, were able to do this until we were told that we need to listen to, other sources, that we're told who to be, we're told what to do. And we start to diminish or play down intuition. Intuition is another word for that inner knowing, that higher understanding. And we dismiss it. But we all have that ability. And what I'm teaching people is really how to remember how to tap into something that we are innately capable of doing.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely agree. I know that my focus on this higher self definitely came a lot later in life, and definitely came
Mhm.
after enduring some challenges and some obstacles in my life. How did you come to face with this journey of finding the higher self?
Yeah, thank you for asking. It's a little bit of a story. Can I get into some storytelling?
Yes, we love stories.
Awesome. Okay, as I said, the pandemic hit, and that was challenging in and of itself. But what really hit me hard was the business that was affected. I had built from the ground up a national organization. I had staff across the country. I've been running this business for 18 years, and suddenly, overnight, all of my partners, all of my funders, all of my sponsors pulled out. And I was left going deeper and deeper into a line of credit, and just feeling the weight of responsibility on my shoulders of trying to make this business survive or help it survive. And in addition to that, my identity was feeling threatened. I felt like I was losing my identity. Who am I other than this woman who is, an executive director of a national arts organization? And by the way, I loved wearing that hat. It gave me a sense of purpose. It gave me this sparkly feeling inside, because I was somebody. I would walk into a room and people wanted to talk to me. I was invited to all the industry parties. I traveled around the world going to film festivals. I walked the red carpet. I've interviewed and hobnobbed with famous people. And I loved that. And I love that sense of purpose that it gave me. I was bringing Canadian film onto the center stage and promoting incredible films and talent. And I just love the feeling of that purpose. And like I said, suddenly overnight, it felt like it was being pulled from underneath me. And I went into a tailspin, and I was demanding of God, the universe, and anyone who would listen, what am I supposed to do? And one day I took that question to my business coach, and she asked me in return a very simple question. Well, Anita, what do you typically do when you feel stressed? I'm like, well, I usually go for a walk in the woods. She's like, perfect. This is what you're going to do every day for the next 30 days. You are going to go for a walk in the woods. I'm like, what? What kind of business coach tells her client to go for a walk in the woods? I need business advice, not nature therapy. And she insisted, and somehow she managed to get a commitment out of me. And the only way I saw that I could make this work was by getting up at the crack of dawn and before the workday started. And I would march down to the forest. And I lived in North Vancouver in Canada at the time. And the forest was in my backyard practically. So, I walk out the door and, I'm stomping down to the woods. And I'm asking again I'm demanding that the universe or somebody tell me, what am I supposed to do? And that's my question, my mantra as I'm marching down through the woods. And slowly, ever so slowly, over a period of a few weeks now, I'm starting to feel more grounded. I'm connecting to my environment. I'm noticing more around me, and I'm seeing how the light comes in through the trees and hearing how the creek is trickling over the rocks and the birds and the wind and the sun on my face. And I'm just feeling really connected with this beautiful environment. I'm starting to feel more grateful and happier. Not exactly happy, but just happier. And in this space of feeling calmer and connected with my environment, I asked that question again. What am I supposed to do? And that's when I heard it, a whisper from within, ask me, what do I want to do? And I'm like, it was like an older, wiser version of me talking to me. And I didn't miss a beat. I'm like, what do you mean, what do I want to do? What am I supposed to do? No, Anita, what do you want to do? I don't know. I don't know. Yes, you do. And that totally stumped me. And I walked home, and then later that day I found myself in the bookstore in the spirituality section, clearly still looking for more answers from somebody. Somebody, please tell me, what am I supposed to do? And I saw a book that caught my eye. It was Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh. And I pull it off the shelf and I flip it open, and these words, this one line just jumped off the page, and it said, frustration and anxiety come from not listening to the soul. Frustration and anxiety come from not listening to the soul. And I realized I'm not listening. I've been here before. I've been in this position before. I just about destroyed my marriage because I was not listening to my soul. And I'm like, okay, I've got to figure this out. I got to figure out, how do you tune in? How do you tap into that part of yourself that knows the answers, that understands who you really are and what you really want? And so every day I went back into the forest, and now I've got a new question to ask. And I'm asking, what do I want? What do I really want? And I listen. And I heard the crickets. I heard the trees, moving in the wind. But I didn't hear anything at first, but I knew I was onto something. So I continued every day connecting with nature. And that's the key. And that's what I've discovered is the key, is the connection. And there's a 5-step process that I've developed for to find that connection. And can I share that with you now? It's just, it's pretty awesome. It's pretty straightforward. So that my 5 steps for accessing your highest self or your inner wisdom, one is simply to unplug from the computers, your cell phone, the craziness of the world around you, and get into nature. The second step is to speak your gratitude. What are you really grateful for? We all know there's tons of studies on the power of gratitude, so find a couple things that you're grateful for right now, a couple things that you're grateful for from your business or your work life, a couple things you're grateful for about your body, like I love my legs, they carry me far. What are you grateful for? And then the third thing is to connect with your environment using all of your senses. What do you see, smell, feel, taste even. Use all of your senses, and that helps to really ground you and get you present in the moment. And then when you find that presence, when you've stopped thinking about the argument you had with your partner this morning, and you're not worrying about the deadline you have this afternoon, when you're actually present in the here and now, then ask your question. And the question I always recommend to my clients to start with is, what do I want? What do I really want? And then the final step is to listen without judgment. And that's hard because we have, in addition to our inner voice of wisdom, we also have an inner critic who wants to tell us, you're not smart enough to do that. You're not capable to do that. What are you thinking about that? And they're judging those higher thoughts. So to listen without judgment is the final step. And that's something you can develop that ability over time. So those are my 5 steps.
Is the listening without judgment, is that what's coming into you and also what's internal? Or is that just one? Is that just the internal?
It's internal. Yeah. Like we are our worst self-critics, right? We are. We don't, you read in my bio about teaching people to become untethered to their beliefs. And that's a big part of it. My biggest limiting belief for a longest time was that I'm not smart enough. And so when I would have a big idea about something, that's something that would light me up. I'm like, oh, I'm not smart enough to do that. That's the gremlin, the inner critic that's coming and taking charge. That's the judgment piece. The other thing is, fear of judgment from others, right? That's what prevents us from often moving forward with big visions and dreams and ideas. So,
yeah. First of all, we have a ton of people watching live. Thank you so much for being here and hanging out with us. I'd love for you to give us a little bit more on this untethered. First of all, for those that don't even know what that means. And then second of all, how?
Yeah, it's a big journey. So untethered, when you're tethered to something, you're tied to something, right? So to become untethered, it's to untie.
Get ready, because today's guest is about to.
Oh, hello. Staying on our toes, right? There we go. So yeah, when we become untethered from our limiting beliefs, then it enables us to move forward. And how you become untethered? Well, what I teach people is actually what I just talked about, is connecting with your higher self. The more time you invest with yourself, the easier it is to let go of your limiting self-beliefs. Because what happens when you invest time with yourself is you actually start to fall in love with who you are. So investing time, and I like to encourage my clients to do that in nature, to take 20 minutes every day and get outside into nature. I often say that nature is the portal to your highest self. And there's tons of poets and even science now is talking more about the benefits of nature, and doctors are prescribing park passes. This is actually a prescription, a park pass, so you can get out of the anxiety-ridden stuff that's going on in here and connect to yourself and what's important to you in here. And this is an important process of becoming untethered.
Beautiful. I love how you're giving us the example of nature, because so often we could just be like, does this mean just sitting on the couch watching Netflix?
No.
Connect to ourselves.
No, that's all that stuff up here again, right? Like we want to unplug, really. unplug from technology and the busyness of our world and step into a natural environment. And if you don't have access to, like I mentioned earlier that, I lived with a forest in my backyard, and now I'm currently living on a ranch with 140 acres around me, which is fabulous. And yet, I've also lived in big cities where, I didn't have the same access, but you walk through neighborhoods or a little community park, sit under a tree on a bench. This is all you need. It's just unplugging from the computers, the media, the noise that is constantly coming at us and filling our heads with who we are supposed to be. That's the big thing, right? Like the world is constantly telling us who we're supposed to be and not be, and who we're supposed to like and not like. And the division in the world right now is just insane.
Mhm.
And it's because we're bombarded with so much negativity and fear, so much fear. And when you spend time with yourself and connect with your natural environment, that fear lifts. And I know that sounds so simple. It sounds almost too simple to be true. And so I challenge you and your listeners to try it. Give yourself a 30-day challenge. Like my business coach gave me a 30-day challenge to be out in nature every day and see what happens for you. And the clarity. I mean, that's what we're here to talk about, is clarity, right? It's when you step away from that craziness, the monkey mind that keeps us, constrained. When you step away from that, wow, there's just so much clarity that comes through, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah. And that can come through directly when there's silence,
Mm-hmm.
noise.
Yeah. And okay. And thank you for presencing that, Sabrina. A lot of people can achieve what I'm talking about through meditation.
Mm.
And I have become a better meditator over the years, but I still actually have challenges sitting still, and quieting the mind. But when I'm in nature, I'm connecting with my environment, and the mind quiets, and I am present. Nature helps you become present to the here and now. And Eckhart Tolle talks a lot about that in his book, The Power of Now. Or Now, if you haven't read that book, it's such a great one. And he'll talk about nature as well. It's so important to be present in the now if you want to create any kind of change in your life.
Yeah, definitely. And then you talk, a lot about personal development, but along with that, leadership
Hmm.
and the importance of, having that evolve over time. Why is leadership so important?
Such a great question, Sabrina. We're all leaders, right? Whether we're leaders of one or leaders of many. And if you're somebody like either of us, Sabrina, myself, I know you're somebody that wants to make a difference in the world. I watched your TED Talk, powerful, powerful TED Talk, and I love the work that you're doing. If you want to be somebody that makes a difference in a world, you need to come from your highest self. Can you imagine a world if all of our leaders were operating from this higher space, from operating from a place, a greater consciousness? Wow, we would have a completely different world. So if you are a leader of more than self, or even if you're just a leader of self, um, learning to operate from your highest self will open up so much for you in your life, and you will have a positive impact in all the lives you touch. All the lives you touch. If you're a parent leading from your higher self, oh my gosh, you want to be a role model for your children, right? You want to show
Yeah.
them the way.
Yeah.
I call it there's two ways of being in the world. There's the wisdom way and there's the foolish way. Most of us, most of the time, operate out of the foolish way. And I don't say that to be disparaging to anyone, but we do. And what that means is that we are not operating from full consciousness. We are reacting from behaviors that are learned. We're not fully in a mindful state all the time. Like you'd have to be a guru to be in that state all the time. So our goal, though, is to operate from the wisdom way as much as possible. And that takes conscious effort. That's a conscious way of being. It's thinking about how you are showing up in the world. It's understanding who you are and what is important to you, understanding your values and stepping into those values.
Yeah. It's really interesting looking at this list and everything that you're saying here. And I'm really seeing a pattern of self-reflection, silence, and
Mhm.
like checking in with yourself. And I feel as if so much of the turmoil that we might be seeing in our lives is because of the lack of like self-awareness and gratitude.
Yeah.
Um, you know what I mean? Because we're always in a rush. We're always watching something. Like we have something in our ear, there's something on the podcast, there's somebody calling, there's a TikTok, there's a YouTube, there's a Netflix. We don't have the patience. We're waiting for the next show. We're waiting for the commercial to end. We don't have time to hear you talk about things or your feelings because there's so much go, go, go.
Mhm.
So I'm really seeing the importance of this, of just sitting in silence in nature, connecting with your emotions in like a calm, quiet. I think we're afraid to do that.
You're absolutely right. A lot of people are. I did an episode on my podcast, The Joyful Journey. It's called Into the Silence. It's a 16-minute solo episode, and I talk about this very thing. It's a lot of people are very uncomfortable about silence. So it was actually one of my clients that brought this to my attention. I was giving her this recommendation: head outside, do 20 minutes by yourself in nature. Just take, and don't, plug into any music, don't plug into anything, just be in nature, be present. And she's like, "Oh no, I don't know if I can do that, Anita." And I'm like, "Well, why not?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm too afraid of my thoughts."
Mm,
And I'm like, "Wow." And yeah, and I've talked to a number of people since. That is very real. Like people are wanting to fill the space with noise because they're afraid to go into the dark thoughts that may come up on their own.
yeah.
And I understand that. I understand that. So, maybe going for a walk in nature by yourself is a way too big of an ask if that is something that's really uncomfortable for you. So, my recommendation there is to start small. Start driving to work without putting on the radio. Do the dishes without watching a TV show. Just and practice just being present to what you're doing without trying to fill the space with noise. And as you start to build that comfort, then you can take the next step. And truly, if it does evoke a lot of discomfort for you, then go and speak to somebody. There's no shame in reaching out and talking to a counselor or somebody that can guide you through any trauma that you may have and that is preventing you from time by yourself, right? And this is a good uh, way to tap in with that, to understand, is this something that I need to explore a little bit more? And there's so many amazing people out there that can walk with you into the dark and help you through the other side. So
Absolutely. And I can definitely attest to this as far as, sitting in the silence and the things that do come up, and the amazing creativity and thoughts and brilliance that comes up at the same time. I drive with nothing on. I drive in complete silence. I do my makeup in silence. I take a shower in silence. And I use that time to like be creative,
yeah.
actually.
Yeah, absolutely. Checking in with yourself and allowing things to just flow without the congestion of things that are trying to fill your head, right?
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing too that I found that's been very helpful is, and I don't want anyone to take this the wrong way, because it's done in a sense of like being self-aware, but I shush myself a lot.
What do you mean?
So like a lot of times even just in conversation, we want to always, like, someone's telling a story and we want to be like, oh, I know, or
Yeah,
oh, I
yeah.
have something different, or I have the same, or I have a story too, or we were in an argument and there's this whole obviously back and forth with arguments, but there's always this sense of like you have to be next, like, yeah, and you have to like fill the void real fast in the conversation. You can't allow yourself to like sit in the story that's being told and digest it. You have to be ready to say something immediately once that person's done, and a lot of times cut them off.
Right.
Attention.
Right. So you're shushing yourself.
Yeah, and I do it like I actually I actually say in my head, shh.
Good. Great. That's a great little technique.
Yeah, and even going as far as saying, don't say anything. Like I'll say that in my head, don't say anything.
Yeah.
Don't say anything. Don't say anything. And just allowing that person to have the grounds to speak, because that's a lot of it too, is there's so much back and forth and talking over that people don't even feel comfortable speaking sometimes, or they speak really fast.
Mm-hmm. There's not an opportunity to really connect at a deep level, you know, and listening to somebody else speak is a skill, right?
Yeah.
Really tuning in and listening. And that's presence again. I think this is so key, presence, you know, and as you learn to develop your presence with yourself, you also develop presence with others. So you can be quiet and still and really listen and connect. And my God, when you connect with people, really authentically connect with people, people feel heard and understood, and beautiful things can happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, this has been great. I took a ton of notes. The other thing that came up for me that I have circled here is, we talked about fear, is guilt. I think for me, it's more guilt, like to sit in nature or to sit in silence in the beginning. I'm good now. I would feel guilty that I was supposed to be doing something else. Like I'm supposed to be doing dishes.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be studying. I'm supposed to be cleaning the bathroom. I'm supposed to be working. I don't have time.
That's society for you. That's the culture scape I mentioned earlier. We are dictated. We wear our busy badges so proudly because our society has dictated that your worth depends on how busy you are. You know, so that is, we have to break that, and that takes conscious effort. The wisdom way is about conscious living. That's being aware that, oh yeah, I've got that busy badge going on again. I feel like I'm supposed to be doing dishes, or I feel like I'm supposed to be writing the next report. And by the way, I feel this all the time too. So, you know, like I talk about this and I recognize that I get into that loop. And it's just, and that's the key though, recognizing, acknowledging, oh yeah, that's happening. I'm putting that busy badge on again. Let's take that busy badge off and just be present here right now. And there will be time for me to do this later. And one more thing I want to say on that is that when we give ourselves time and to step away from and unplug from the crazy, the busy and all that stuff, we are way more productive. We get so much more done when we give ourselves permission to have slow down time, our nature time, or me time.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, I so thank you. For those of you listening live, thank you for being here. Anita, especially since we have so many people listening, I would love for you to kind of do an overview. Obviously, those who have been listening since the beginning, they're getting a really good idea of, what you do, who you help. But if you could kind of just give us a synopsis of, who should be reaching out to you and who do you help?
Yeah, I like to say I work with leaders who want to make a difference in the world or in their own life. And like I said earlier, I believe we're actually all leaders. We're leaders, people who want to stand up and live their best life and make an impact. So I have a book that's coming out at the end of this month. If everything goes well, there's still so many little things that need to be done. It's called Whispers of the Soul. And you can find out more about that if you want to get on my mailing list. I'm at joyfulinspiredliving.com. And I do one-on-one coaching, and I will be starting some group coaching in a few months as well. And it's all about connecting with your highest self so you can put your best step forward, so you can step into your potential with confidence and courage and have the impact you want to have in the lives of others.
Gorgeous. And where can people find you on social media? Where do you predominantly hang out?
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm occasionally on TikTok, doing nature videos and different things like that to inspire people to get outside.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah.
So, to those of you here live or on the replay, Anita can be found at joyfulinspiredliving.com. She predominantly hangs out on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Insta. Any closing thoughts as we wrap up?
Yeah, just get outside, my friends. Spend some time with yourself. You're worth it. You're worth it. Spend time with getting to know who you are, and you will reap the rewards.
Absolutely. Well, this has been great. Thank you so much for taking the time, sharing some wisdom, inspiring us all. Once again, I am Sabrina Victoria. I'm the host here at Her Talk Show. Thank you for hanging out with us. Remember to follow, like, and share. I invite you to join our amazing community, Her Nation, where we continue to uplift each other every single day by having conversations just like this.